We are here at the Shul.com podcast at the Surfside Kolel Boker. We are reading from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch of Hazon Ovadia Moadim Bet. We are beginning Hilchot Hanukkah. That's the next holiday coming up. So let's take a look on the Peticha Sibat Achag Umahuto. What is the reason for the holiday of Hanukkah? Bitkufat Habayit Hasheni, in the second temple, Kitzur Malchei Yavan Gezerot on Israel. They made a lot of Gezerot on Israel. Bitlu otam midatam, and they removed them from their religion. Belohi nichum la'asok b'Torah mitzvot. They removed them from Torah and mitzvot, and they put their hands, the Greek, the Hellenists, against their money and their daughters. They broke through the Hechal, and they were mitameh, all the pure things in the Beit HaMikdash. It was very difficult for the Jewish people. God finally had mercy, and He saved them. The Chashmonim, the Kohanim, they came and they killed the Greeks. And they saved them from their persecution. And they made a king out of the Hashmonaim, out of the Kohanim. For another 200 years, the Hashmonaim kept hold of the Beit HaMikdash, and where Israel conquered their enemies and destroyed them. The 25th of Kislev, they went in, they didn't see oil to light the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, except for one little pach of shemen. It was only enough to light one day. And a miracle happened. It lasted 8 days until it took them enough time to go out and get new olives, make oil, and bring it. And because of this, the rabbis made a takana shebedor hahu sheyu shemona yamim ele hechel meyom kafeh b'kislev v'hala. And that because of this, the rabbis determined that it will be an 8-day holiday from 25th of Kislev onward, of simha, happiness, and praise. Hallel. We light candles each night, every night, the 8 nights, and those are the days of Hanukkah. Okay, next one. Why is the miracle 8 days if seemingly the miracle was only a 7-day miracle? Because when they came back from the war, the people were time'im metim. Obviously, they were going out and defending themselves. I'm sure they had to kill some of the enemies. And so if they touch a body, it would make them tameh. It's not the discussion now to say if the nochri or nakum is tameh, they're tameh b'maga, not an ohel. There's a whole discussion on that. After 7 days that they became pure, so that's why, another reason. One of the reasons was that from Yerushalayim until their point of being able to get to the olives and squeezing them and walking and getting back in time, it took them a certain amount of days. Here there was another reason, that it needed a full 7 days to become pure. And they had to be sprinkled, obviously, with the afad of the paraduma. Some say that the oil came from the part of the land that was Asher, like it says in Devarim Lamed Gimel Kaf Daled. There was a place in Asher called Tekoa, that's where they got the oil of the Beit HaMikdash. That it was an 8-day trek. However, it took, however they walked it or whatever it was. Now, if you look on the bottom, he mentions a footnote. Let's take a look. He brings down the Ma'or Yisrael and the Rushim, explaining how they were metameh the shemanim in the Mikdash and how they were able to find one pach shemen. Let's continue. Ubemegillat Ta'anit mevu'ar שכל 8 הימים היו תירודים בבניית המזבח מחדש ובתיקון כלי שרת. So he said in those 8 days they had to rebuild and fix up the mizbeach, they had to fix all the kelim. ולא היה להם פנאי להכין שמן טהור עד לאחר 8 ימים. Didn't have time to make the oil. That was another reason. פני כך הוצרכו לנש 8 ימים. That's why also it was 8 days. Because besides getting in there, the enemy didn't, broom sweep the location before they handed it over. This is not like a landlord-tenant situation. They destroyed the place and they left it a mess. So besides getting in there, they had to go in there and clean up the place and fix it up. Now let's look at Tirutzim al Kushyot Habet Yosef. Interesting. Yidu'a Kushyat Hamaran Habet Yosef. It's well known the Kushya, difficulty of the Bet Yosef. That's Rabbi Yosef Karo. Lama Kab'u l'drosh shmona yemei Hanukkah. Why did 8 days end up becoming the holiday for the generations? Halo Hashemin shebapach hispik leyom echad. It only lasted 1 day, the oil. So the miracle was really only 7 days. B'yishuv קושיה זו נאמרו תירוצים רבים ואלו שלפנינו הביאם מרן זצ"ל בספרו. Okay, so there's a couple of reasons for this as to why it's not a 7-day holiday. Number 1, א', חילקו את השמן שבפח ל8 לילות. ובכל לילה יצקו למנורה חלק אחד, ואותו חלק מועט היה דולק והולך כל הלילה עד הבוקר במצווה שהלילה הראשון גם בו נעשה הנס. So what happened was when they realized they only had 1 pach, they didn't actually fill up the entire menorah with the entire pach. They divided the 1 pach in 8 and put them into the menorah, and it lasted for a full day, even though it was 1/8 of the measure. Bet. בלילה הראשון יצקו את השמן שבפח כולו לתוך המנורה, ונשאר הפח מלא שמן כבתכלה, וכן בכל לילה וניכר הנס אף בלילה הראשון. Second reason. That the first night they took the whole jar, they filled it up into all the 8, they lit everything, they went the next morning and it was all there. No part of the oil, evaporated or went away through the flame. It stayed and kept its measure. Gimel, יצקו את השמן כולו לתוך המנורה בלילה הראשון, ודלק כל הלילה, ובבוקר מצאו את הנרות המנורה מלאים שמן וכן בכל לילה ולילה. Okay, it looks like that's the same. Let me understand why that was different than the second reason. Okay. So here's the difference. He says here on the second reason that when they filled up the pach into the menorah in full, as the reason bet, when they went the next night, the pach was still filled. The actual jar where the oil was filled. The third reason was that they filled the entire menorah the first night, just the oil never went down. Okay, so there were 2 reasons, that the pach shemen kept its oil. The other one was that the menorah, once they put all the oil in there, the oil never also evaporated. Okay, dalet. כאשר באו ליצוק שמן מהפח לתוך המנורה, תכף כשיצקו שמינית מהשמן מיד נתמלאו הנרות שמן על כל גדותם בדרך נס ודלקו מערב עד בוקר ולא נחסר מהפח אלא שמינית. So he says here, when they were pouring from the pach shemen, the little jar that they had, 1/8, what happened was נתמלאו הנרות שמן על כל גדותם בדרך נס. Even though they poured 1/8, they saw it fill up to its top. They measured only 1/8 that was being removed because they wanted to save it, but it just filled itself up, and it ended up lighting. It ended up lighting the whole night. And when they looked into the jar, only 1/8 was used, so they didn't know how they only poured 1/8, but it was filled. Hey, חילקו את השמן שבפח ל8 לילות. They divided the oil inside the pach for 8 days, ועשו פתילות דקות מאוד כדי שלא יכלה השמן. They made very thin pitilot so that the shemen wouldn't dissolve and evaporate מהרה, quickly, ויוכל לדלוק כל לילה, and it would last all night. ונעשה נס שדלקו הנרות יפה באור יקרות כאילו הייתה הפתילה עבה והשמן רב. He said even though they didn't put a lot of oil and they made very thin pitilot, when they saw the light, it was a strong light and a strong flame that didn't make sense to what the effort they did in putting it there. לדעת בעל השאילתות השמן שבפח לא היה בו להדליק אפילו יום אחד, ונעשה נס גם בלילה הראשון ודלק כל הלילה. Okay, next reason is that there wasn't even enough in the pach shemen for one night. And so the first night in and of itself was a miracle also. Zayin, בלילה הראשון, אנו מדליקים בשום נס הישועה בניצחון המלחמה, שעה שבעת הילדות משום נס פח השמן. Next reason is that the first night we're actually celebrating the battle, the war that was won, and the remaining nights, the nes of the pach shemen. Het, 8. הלילה הראשון נקבע משום מפני שביום זה חינכו החשמונאים את בית המקדש לעבודה, אחר שביטלו היוונים. The next reason is that they were celebrating that the Hanukkah Mizbeach, that it was rebuilt and they cleaned it up and took it back. And then the remaining days, they ended up celebrating for the nes of the oil. Tet, 9. בספר העיתים כתב שהטעם שקבעו שמונת ימי חנוכה לפי שרצו לרמוז על מצוות ברית מילה שזמנה ביום השמיני ומסרו ישראל נפשם עליה בשעת הגזרות של מלכי יוון. So he says another reason they made it 8 days, that they wanted to remind the people of the mitzvah of brit milah that's on the 8th day. So they made it 8-day holiday, and Bnei Israel gave up their lives for this mitzvah during the gezerot of Malchei Yavan. Okay, Ta'am, שלא תקנו בחול יום נוסף כשאר ימים טובים. Why didn't they include an extra day for the holiday outside of Israel, just like all other holidays? Dalet, let's take a look here. Hatam shetiknu chachamim shomanat yemei Chanukah ben ba'aretz ben bechutz haaretz. Why is it 8 days in Israel and outside? Lo tiknu tish'a yamim bechutz haaretz, not 9 days. Mishum safek, because of a doubt. Kederach shetiknu yom tov sheni shel galiot. Why didn't they do that? Like they did on Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah. There's a whole discussion that Rosh Hashanah, I think it was in the Tur we saw it, that before Ashkenazim came into Israel like 1,000 years ago, Rosh Hashanah was 1 day in Israel. That's a huge, it was a huge discovery in the Tur. That today it's done 2 days, and the Gemara calls it Yom Ha'arichta. But if you look at some of the opinions, there was a time in Israel for about 1,000 years after the Churban HaBayit that Rosh Hashanah was only 1 day. But that's a different discussion. Lefi sheChanukah mid'Rabbanan lo hechimiru bo kol kach. They were not machmir d'Rabbanan on this Hanukkah. V'yesh shebi'aru sheban Hanukkah lo yasafek lebnei chutz haaretz. Another reason is there was no safek in chutz haaretz. מאחר ועד כ"ה בכסלו היו שליחים מגיעים לארץ ישראל גם נוקות הרחוקים והיו כל יודעים ממתי הוא זמן חנוכה. So part of the reason why they ended up doing the second day of holidays was that the runners that would tell the people that it was Rosh Chodesh would reach their destination within a 2-week time frame. So that's why a lot of our holidays are on the 15th of the month, besides that it's the full moon and other reasons that it took them time to get to the point. But here it's the 25th of Kislev. So even if it was Chutz Haaretz and they had to announce people when the Rosh Chodesh was, it would take them less than 25 days to get the message out to the outlying countries of Israel. Ish yarda min hashamayim. Hey, katub besefer Yosifun, sof perek chaf. That's Josephus. Kasher chazru hachashmonim leYerushalayim umatz'u hamizbeach meshukatz. When the Hashmonim came back to Yerushalayim and they saw the Mizbeach was destroyed, chazru banu hamizbeach, they rebuilt the Mizbeach, ve'alu olot, they put on korbanot olot, ve'esh kedusha lo matzu, but they didn't find a flame of kedusha. V'yitzhaku l'Hashem v'tetzeh esh al hamizbeach, they cried to God and a fire came onto the Mizbeach, v'tihi ha'esh kol yamim al hamizbeach ad l'chorban bet hamikdash, and that fire that the Hashmonaim prayed for, it came seemingly from the Shamayim or from the Mizbeach, and it stayed there for over 200 years. It never went away. So that's an unbelievable insight. Hanukkah, al Shem Yisud Bet HaMikdash, Yisod Bet HaMikdash Hasheni B'chinucho. Vav, כתוב בספר מור וקסיעה, בטעם שם חנוכה. נראה לי דבר חדש בעזרת השם יתברך, שנקרא כן גם על שם חינוך ההיכל. שהיה בזמן הזה בימי חגי הנביא, ככתוב בנבואתו, בית ד' שב-24 לתשיעי, on the 24th of the 9th month, שהוא כסלו, הוסד ולמחתו חנכוהו בהקרבה, אף על פי שלא נבנה הבית עדיין כמובא במדרש, וכן שאמרו זבחים סמך בית עמוד א', שמקריבים אף על פי שאין בית. So there were 3 Nevi'im that came down that gave certain things on Zevachim Samech Bet. One of them was that you can be makriv a korban even when there's no Bet HaMikdash. We'll look into that Zevachim. It's an interesting Gemara of what and why it's really important today that we're living in Yemot HaMashiach, and what the process of Eliyahu Nabi Zachulatov is going to be when the Mashiach does come. ובהדלקה מבערב שאין מחנכין המנורה אלא בין הארבעים כמו ששנינו במנחות מ"ט עמוד א' ועל שם חנוכת הבית השם נקראים ימי נס הנרות שאירע באותו פרק חנוכה. אוקיי? חביבה מצוות חנוכה. זין. מצוות נר חנוכה, מצווה חביבה היא עד מאוד צריך אדם להיזהר בה. A person has to love the mitzvah of Hanukkah and be careful. Kedei le'odiya hanes. Other people should know about the miracle. Hosif b'shevach ha'el v'hodaya lo al hanisim she'asa lanu, on all of the miracles he did for us. Afilu en lo ma yochal ela min hatzedakah sho'el u'mocher kisuto v'lokeach shemen nerot u'magdik. Even if he doesn't have much to eat, he should sell his jacket or his clothing, whatever he could, so he can get some oil in order to light candles. Obviously, if he's doing that, I mean, you could do it for what the minimal mitzvah is. The minimal mitzvah is one light, one candle. But that's a different discussion. Segula lebanim tamidei chachamim. Now he gives you a segula to have children that are tamidei chachamim. Ma Rav Huna haragil bened habyan lebanim tamidei chachamim. That's Shabbat Kaf Gimel Amud Bet. Shneimar ki ner mitzvah b'Torah or Mishle Vav dash Chaf Gimel. Adidem means mitzvah shel Shabbat v'shel Chanukah bar or shel Torah. That's Rashi. So you have a couple of interesting points on the introduction of Hanukkah from Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Hazon Ovadia. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen v'amen.